Thank you. Welcome all. Thank you for joining the January 2025 Pennsylvania Forward Call. Brian McMurray. Geez, 2025. We're on here. Okay, we still got people tuning in. Nancy, Rick, thank you for joining. Yeah, watched a little bit of the inauguration today. Um, back into it. Did anybody have any takeaways from what they saw today?
Yeah, we're in trouble. What do you want to say? I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very aggressive, aggressive, obviously. I listened to the this rambling on that he did inside with the outside the audience that couldn't get into the room.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's concerning to me as a human being, it really is. But I don't know.
Is there any
I'm sorry,
optimistic
I'm trying to
way?
find how do I don't oh here, I'm sorry.
Got it? Okay, welcome all. Does
It's
anybody have
not
any optimistic way? I mean, we saw a peaceful transition of power. Is anyone taking relief from that, about putting politics aside and, no? Okay.
I'll jump in only because I'm surrounded by people who kind of feel the same way as Nancy. I, I'm hopeful that the United States and this grand experiment we've been on for, quite a long time is a little bit like Mother Nature, and regardless of what we think we as mere humans can do to it, probably we won't anywhere near do to it what we worry about. It's like the old line from Sam Clemens, Mark Twain, who used to say, "I had a great many problems in my life, but most of them never happened." And I think that we're going to find in 4 years that our life hasn't. I think Bob Cotter's right. I think we're going to find 4 years from now that our lives have not substantively changed because of the administration. If it substantively changes, it's because of stuff that's going on in the geopolitical universe that we have no control over. But that's just my opinion, and I can tell you, I lived through the race riots in the '60s. Most of you did not, and I had friends in Newark when it burned, and I grew up in Jacksonville. I went to high school in Jacksonville when it burned, and I watched, heard the same rhetoric, and I remember. I'll close with this line. There used to be a political cartoon called Barry's World, and he had these three old women looking at the archives, and there was an AUH2O poster, and I'm not quite sure if you guys knew who Goldwater was, but he was he ran against Lyndon Johnson, and these people were looking at the Goldwater poster, and they said if I voted for Barry Goldwater, there'd be rioting in the streets, the war in Vietnam would be escalated, and life as we knew it in the United States would change forever. I did, and all those things happened. And because the truth is change is just inevitable. But at the end of the day, look where we are now. We had a black president. Civil rights came and went. Women's rights, my wife is a woman, runs a woman-owned, woman-maintained, woman-operated business with hundreds of volunteers. And I mean, it's like we are so far better off today than we were in 1965. So anyway, I'll close with I'm hopeful that the world will not come to an end.
Awesome. Well, there's optimism. Okay, anyone else optimism? Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, I'll piggyback off of that, Jack. And I think that an optimism is like people realize they need to pay attention to the people who are in office. People realize they need to pay attention to what people say, but also what they do. And they have, I shouldn't say that, I'll just say they because I'm an independent, but there is a clear majority in the three branches of government and they get their shot. And if in 4 years all our problems are solved, some people were wrong. And I doubt that in any administration, all our problems will be solved. They weren't solved at the end of the last administration. Mistakes were made on both sides. it's an interesting time. And I think everyone should just take a breath, let the process play out, protest if needed, when needed, meaning like vote people out or speak or write a letter or do something. But the idea that like government happens to me versus I'm a part of the process needs to change. And maybe this is what it takes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's our whole message, right? Getting people involved at the local level, making the changes that we can affect change. You can affect change in your local mayor race, state house race, school board race. What's happening at the presidential level is a little outside of our control right now. So, yeah. Anyway, I appreciate you all being here tonight. We have a special guest to start our call tonight. Lucy Caldwell. Some of you have heard from her before. I'm sorry, Lucy, I should have prepared your exact title, but you're with
That's okay.
Nationals, so
That's okay. Yeah, I'm a longtime senior advisor to Forward National, and became an advisor to Forward ahead of the merger that happened almost 3 years ago between Forward, Legacy Forward, RAM, and SAM. My background is as an operative. I'm still a working operative who has a range of engages in a range of work. Jack, I cut my teeth at the Goldwater Institute, and I'm a bit too young to say that I'm a Goldwater girl, but I grew up in Arizona and moved back to Arizona after college to work at Goldwater. So I know the Goldwater era and that legacy very well. And so it has been a strange journey personally as an operative from former senior staffer at the Goldwater Institute to being an outspoken never Trumper. And the work that I do for Forward is really some of the most heartwarming work that I do, because it actually feels like a lever to help make our democracy healthier in a way that is not just hemorrhaging the bleeding, right? It is actually a forward-looking, no pun intended, but opportunity to really affect change in a positive way. And I really am at your service here. I had said to some of the Pennsylvania team on a call that we had with Governor Whitman last month that with many state parties, I join their calls quite regularly so that I can take back requests, be around, be informed in a way that is helpful to many folks. It's not necessary, but I had just, but it often things come up that you don't expect, like someone's working on an initiative and there's an opportunity for collaboration, or I have an update that, turns out to be really germane. I know not everyone can make a lot of the programming that we do, though a reminder that most of that does end up recorded in the K-Base. But of course, we have a state leads meeting the first Thursday of every month. We now have a nation builder office hours the second Thursday of every month. We have an interstate office hours the third Thursday. And then we have on the fourth Thursday, typically, although the time may change this week, unfortunately, because of some scheduling issues, a training module. So those are great opportunities to convene with other folks who are working on building their state parties, but obviously there's more ability for tight coordination in a setting like this. So I'm always happy to join, as I told some of the members of the Pennsylvania team. My vision, and I know it's a vision shared by the Forward Board and Matt and Lindsay, is really that Forward HQ ultimately should function as a services organization to the states. That's how national parties should work. So I really aim to focus my work around how we can be responsive to state parties, obviously with all the caveats about the need to guard the brand and create coordination that makes sense in these nascent years. But we are working on a lot of stuff that hopefully will be a value add to folks, including affinity groups, which we're working on rolling out later this month, so that group, folks who are comms leads in their states can be in a working group with other comms leads and so on and so forth, work on fundraising. Because I think at this point, now we never want to be prescriptive, but we want 2025 to be the year that we all can collectively level up. And we know that those functions exist within state parties. And so properly resourcing folks in a tailored way. We're also working on, and some of the members of the Maryland party are working with me on this. And I put this call out at the last state leads meeting, but I'll put the call out again. We're working on developing a mechanism where we can, for lack of the sort of lack of a better term, bracket or categorize where state parties are kind of like in the journey from new state party to juggernaut. Some of this is part of our 2028 FEC recognition work nationally, which every state party is a part of, but it's also because state parties are apples to oranges. Everyone has a different campaign finance and regulatory environment. And so there are states that have ballot access that actually are not very far along at all. And then there are states that don't have ballot access that are very far along, and vice versa across a range of categories. And so some of the Maryland party members and some others are going to work with me in coming weeks on, especially people who have backgrounds in things like project management and are used to thinking about systems in this way, a way that is radically transparent around sort of, this is where HQ views the state party in the journey of that state party, which hopefully also will take away feelings that some people might have had of like, my party is being resourced, my party is not, so on and so forth. The one other thing I'll say, and then I'm happy to take any questions, or Brian, we can take this however you want, is that one of the things that came up when we had a smaller group meeting at the end of the year is that there are actually in Pennsylvania many high profile folks who are would-be forward surrogates, right? For example, former Republican Congressman Jim Greenwood in Bucks County, some others. There are a lot of great folks, funder types, high profile Politico types, that HQ had the impression folks on the ground in Pennsylvania had been connected with, and they hadn't. And so don't know why, isn't not here to sort of go over why that is, but we want to make that happen. So we want to make that happen. We want to help you guys be as successful as possible. And I, it's easy to show up on a call and say that. But we really, sorry for the background noise. There's a bedtime is happening in my home right now. But so we're here to serve you, and some concrete things came out that are tangible that we can make happen and work on together in this quarter and throughout the year. But you may have identified additional ones that are not on my mind as well. So.
Yeah, so thank you for joining us, Lucy. Does anyone have any questions about what National is doing or what Pennsylvania can do to fit into National's plan?
I would like to address the last thing you said, Lucy, and I think some of us who have been here since the beginning will confirm this. So I'm delighted to hear what you just said, and I think it's true. I think there's been some movement to try to make sure that the state leadership is tied in with some of these more influential influencers in Pennsylvania, but this call is probably not the proper format, but I would love to have a one-on-one with you and be happy to give some background on maybe some of the root causes of why that is and some of the ideas we have to fix it. And if you're already working on that, I would love that if we were all working on it together and set up a focus group with the party leadership, because we're 100% aligned with what you're saying. This is a big miss. And we want to fix it too.
Awesome. Yeah, let's definitely do that, Jack.
Hey, anybody else? Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us, Lucy. I know a lot of you tune into these calls every month. We love that. We love to have you all the time. Forward National you may not be aware, is having these regular calls. So we're hearing from them, trying to work with them and the other states on some overarching plans. It's it's always great to have Lucy or someone from National with us. Thank you very much. Okay,
bet.
let's jump into our regular agenda here. Can everyone see my screen? Think so. Yeah, so tonight we're gonna welcome you. I think you're all welcomed. PA Pro Democracy Collab Movement, not moment. Legislative Watch. We're gonna talk about our priorities here at Forward PA and what they are for 2025. And then we're going to talk about running for judge of elections across Pennsylvania and some other races, and have Q&A, some action steps, and we'll let you go. It's Martin Luther King Day. Martin Luther King believed in treating one's adversaries with compassion. Yeah, I think we need to work on applying that to our politics of today. You know, today is a day that about half the country didn't want to happen. You know, their presidential candidate lost, but we have to understand. You know, we have to have compassion for those people that are very upset, and compassion for the people that voted for them and want people to get on board. It's understanding everybody. Okay, the PA Pro Democracy Collaborative. This is kind of the term given to, in the past few meetings, we've been talking about the other groups in Pennsylvania that are working on the things that we care about. Groups like Fair Districts, PA, March on Harrisburg, we've talked about Ballot PA, we've talked about a lot over time, focusing on, you know, ending, you know, well, bringing on open primaries and ranked choice voting, and ending, you know, bad districting reforms. These groups we talk about. There's also Common Cause, League of Women Voters, Independence of Pennsylvania. We talk about them a lot too. Does anyone have any other groups that they think belong on this list? We'd love to hear about them. We also, you know, we've talked before about how these groups, they are advocacy groups. They have, you know, issues that they're promoting. They can't endorse candidates exactly, right? They're you have legal things that get in the way that don't let them run candidates. But all these people, the people that belong to these organizations, care a lot about politics, probably harbor, you know, wishes of running for office someday, and they need to know that their natural political home is Forward Party. So if you can go to any of these meetings and wear some Forward Party merch, or just introduce yourself and tell them, you know, bring up Forward Party, that's a great time to like let them know that we are simpatico, you know. And then that's how the connections are made that are going to lead to runs for office by someone that we agree with, and we'll be, you know, thrilled to have them run under our banner in Pennsylvania. So look for opportunities to work with any of these groups and introduce yourself. And if you see a group that you think we should work with, or maybe an event we should highlight, let us know. Reach out at the email. We can put it in the newsletter, or even send a specific email to highlight an event, or we can promote it on social media. We just need to know these things. So please keep in contact with them. Yeah, so our priorities, Rachel, Jen?
Brian, before we move on, if I could quickly jump in, I apologize
Yeah.
for being off camera and not being with everyone tonight. I got out of a late meeting and I'm in my car driving. Hopefully you can all hear me. There's a couple legislative actions that we're expecting in the next couple weeks that we wanted to keep an eye out for. Fair Districts, before the end of the month, plans on having a press conference in Harrisburg to announce the House bill and Senate bill numbers for action to be taken to move into law fair districting in PA. So we want to just keep an eye out for that. And as we're talking to candidates, whether they're running as, or if they're interested in affiliating with Forward, running as Forward, or or however they're involved, these are issues that I hope that matter to us and that we're asking people to take a stance on. And if there's a reason why they don't like a bill, let's push them to go on record and help make these bills better and more passable. Or maybe we need to find good competition for the people who aren't going to support these things that look to be good pro-democracy, anti-corruption type changes. Likewise, March on Harrisburg expects a gift ban bill this session. So continue to be on the lookout for that. And again, let's talk to our legislators about whether or not this is something that they're going to support. And this could be a great opening conversation for someone who may have interest in affiliating and being part of what we're building here at Forward. And if there's a reason why they don't like it, again, let's push for answers that are going to lead us closer to a solution. And find ways to work together. And if there's not a good reason that the bill shouldn't pass, and it's just someone playing politics and stonewalling to do things the old-fashioned way, and allow for some of these moves that don't feel like they're democratic or aligned with the values and ideals that we support, then it's time to find competition to run against them and help to put these changes into action. So that's what we'd like to do is for each of you, as you have different groups that you're involved with, whether it's these ones or other ones, let's start tracking some legislation and make sure, how can we talk to our own local legislatures? How can we talk to our neighbors and other community members and find different types of things that we might be able to work on? And there's other things that we might want to work on too, which leads into the priorities that I think Brian's going to talk to you about next. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Christian. Yeah, and we have special elections coming up also. So there's, I don't know if anyone saw the news today, but a member of the Pennsylvania State House passed away in the past couple days from Allegheny County. So there's going to be a special election to fill his seat, and there's another special election in the state Senate in the Gettysburg, Harrisburg, or the Harrisburg, Lancaster area. Yeah, so those races, there's going to be candidates running, and it doesn't take very much to get in a hold of them and try and get them to go on the record about some of these issues. Yeah, David.
Thanks, Brian. I just wanted to throw in something inspired by what Christian said about following legislation. I attended the Fair Districts Conference last month, and they had a session about how dysfunctional our legislature actually is. Because of that, Fair Districts has spun off a side organization called Fix Harrisburg. I can't remember whether it was listed separately from Fair Districts on that earlier slide, but I would encourage everyone to check them out. It's a splinter off of Fair Districts, but they're specifically targeted on legislative dysfunction and all of the bills that mysteriously die for no reason. They even have a separate website on Fair Districts. I just wanted to give them a plug.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Yeah, the video you shared of that speech, I think you shared the video, right? That was awesome. I watched it. That guy really laid out a lot of issues. Maybe you could find that link and put it in the chat for people. Yeah, Fix Harrisburg, walking through why Harrisburg works the way it does.
Sure, I'll try to find that.
Cool. Yeah, anybody else? Yeah, great. All right. So yeah, to talk about our priorities, yeah, were Rachel or Jack, were you prepared to speak about our priorities?
Yeah, we're here and we're ready. We love to talk about this topic. I also want to just back up for a second. I mean, it couldn't be a better segue talking about the things Christian was talking about and finding candidates and how do we know if they're good for us and how important it is that finding one person, the PA legislature is literally 101, 101. It's like literally deadlocked at this moment. And we knew it was close. It's always kind of close, but it doesn't take 50% of something to make a difference. It takes like a very small percent, like 1%, 3%, 5% to be a sway vote. And I think that helps people understand how we believe we can be successful because we're not trying to be the next major party at this moment. We're trying to be a fulcrum of change, and it doesn't take that many. what David was saying. I am pretty sure, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're one of, if not the highest paid full-time legislatures in the country. And we pass like the least amount of laws for this reason. So again, the dysfunction is like really not serving the residents of Pennsylvania and all of, besides Lucy, that's us. But anyways, I digress. So the priorities. So Jack and I worked on this labor of love almost 2 years ago, year and a half ago, and I think I'm proud of it, and it's really important. It's become more important, and I'll tell you why. But we do have 3 governmental and 3 societal or social priorities, and I won't read them to you. I thought maybe there'd be a link to the document in there, but we can definitely find it and post it. Governmental election reform, suite of election reform is open primaries, independent redistricting commission, and ranked choice voting. It's important that we figured out what we want to fix in Pennsylvania so we can hold people accountable to bringing us solutions. And the reason I'm going in this roundabout is to draw the connection or connect the dots to a question we get all the time, and we need to get better at answering, which is, what do you stand for? What is your platform? And then we do this little dance around of how, well, we don't have a platform, we're not going to. We stand for solutions to the problems that each state party, right? It shouldn't be Idaho Forward Party that decides what's important to Pennsylvania, or national somewhere, thanks, Brian, dictating a list of things. We decide in Pennsylvania, and of course we have to, it can't be something wacky, but election reform is a big part of the forward movement. And what we can accomplish in Pennsylvania is repealing closed primaries. We say open primaries, it's repealing closed primaries. Well, there's only 8 or 9 states that have closed primaries. So that can't be a national item because there's only 8 or 9 states that have that. We have to decide. We have to know what's going on here and what's possible to change. And then when that change occurs, finally, then we can replace that priority with something else. And when people say, what do you stand for? Why would I vote for someone who has forward? There's this disclaimer at the top of the priorities statement that says, the following are the immediate, so they should change, the immediate priorities of the Pennsylvania Forward Party. Forward candidates, office holders, and candidates seeking endorsement should provide solutions to these items on their individual platforms. And then we see if we can work together and we'll endorse you. And in fact, we may not even agree on every item, but if you're a strong repeal closed primaries and you conduct yourself in a collaborative manner, and you're coming to the table and you conduct yourself with grace and tolerance and the principles that we have, it's very possible. We're not telling people, we're trying to do something differently than the big backroom smoke-filled parties. You must vote for all of these things or else no money for you. You can't be the candidate. We're going to primary you. We're trying to do something different. And I think that resonates with people. And if you can connect, these are the things that are important to us. The 4 societal, off the top of my head, I believe are like healthcare, safer communities, energy and environment. Actually, I have it here. The economy, right? So, no one's going to say, nah, that's not important. No one's going to say. But as things happen either in the courts or in the legislature or from the executive branch, and we find that something becomes more important, we want to replace a priority, we can. Ideally, it would be we solve a problem and we replace it with a new priority. So I could take any questions. Jack, you can jump into, but I think it's really important to know what matters to you to be able to endorse candidates who have solutions to those issues. And that's how we get better outcomes.
I would like to just add a little bit to what Rachel said. So what you're looking at is kind of a distillation of the 2 odd years work, that we put together and have been refining it. And the key word is refining it. So, every month there's a brand new forward party in Pennsylvania. We learn things. We reserve the right to get smarter. We reserve the right to pivot. We reserve the right to move things up and down in the priority list. So we really need your input, right? It's like we could use this. And it should be used as a springboard for conversation. But especially those of you who are relatively new, like in the last 6 or 7 months, the Pennsylvania Forward Party, as Lucy pointed out, is different than the Maryland Forward Party, and we're going to have slightly different priorities than another state may have, and we need to be true to our own state. So I just wanted to lay it out there that you're not looking at something we're saying it is a starting point, and it will forever evolve as we move forward. So
You're muted, Rachel.
Thanks. One step further is that we're looking to really grow in regions and in counties, and we want to know what's important in your county and in your region. And you know the most important thing to your local elections, be it school board, mayor, city council, town council, borough council, whatever it is. So think about this. And if you're here, you're obviously at least a little bit interested, and think about, okay, what's going on in my local community? And actually, if I had to make a list of 7, it would be these things. And I'm going to talk to people about it. And then maybe I know somebody who has good solutions that works in business, but maybe I can get them to run us forward. So take that little nugget.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Does anybody want to weigh in? What do you think of our priorities? Have you looked them over? Are there other things that we should add?
And the document does have like a blurb, like a paragraph or 3 sentences or something, kind of diving deeper into, and citing other organizations, especially on the governmental ones that we've already listed that are also working with us. And I think they have links and stuff like that. So some of our partners working on the same things. Again, they don't run candidates. They lobby, they advocate, they call their legislators, they hold meetings, but they don't run candidates.
Right. Yes, Spencer.
Listen, man, he insists you have to be.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
This isn't quite like a policy priority, I guess, but I do think it's nice to emphasize, because I think it matters to me, and I think it matters to a lot of people in Forward, is sort of trying to repair the national conversation and just kind of the tone of discourse, and bridge that divide politically. So I think just emphasizing that in conversation with other people tends to work. Definitely help with my parents. I can give that anecdote.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's important. It's hard to put that into words, like what do we prioritize? I mean, that's something Forward has done a lot. Like, what's your tone? Which grace? What are some other words they use? Like
collaboration. I think Christian often says diversity of thought is not just welcome, it's encouraged. Like when he was saying about, if you talk to someone, they won't vote for something we believe in, don't just walk away. Find out why. There could be some tiny little rider or some words that they don't like, or maybe they're really, against it. But I think we are quick to turn off the switch or turn the page, write somebody off, when the only way we're going to solve these problems is to figure out why some people don't like the solutions that we do.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Or worse is they like the solutions we do, but they're from a different tribe, and so they can't say they like it. And that just drives me crazy. It's like if we agree on the problem and separately we agree on a solution, that we can't move forward because we need the help from the other side of the aisle. That just doesn't make a lick of sense to me. So.
Brian, I'd like to offer one other way of how priorities may be acted upon. Sometimes it's not even a policy. It might just be a very specific issue. The city of Pittsburgh is considering privatizing their water. And most people in the city of Pittsburgh have no idea that this is even a consideration. So even a public awareness type approach and helping to engage people, make sure they have the information, have the full conversation before this change might be thrust upon them, is the type of issue where we can engage people. And through those conversations, through that work, it's something that could lead to additional work together in broader, more policy type things. So within each of our own neighborhoods, we might be aware of something that as Forwardists, we can come alongside of other people, or we might be the instigators to finding very community specific priorities that we can help to improve our communities.
Exactly. Or suppose that there was a state issue that it was very important for Pennsylvania, but didn't apply to other states. Say something, I don't know. leave that blank for a second. But suppose it's something that very much impacts Pennsylvania and not other states. Other parties are going to be hesitant to get in on that because, take a position on this issue, because they have to worry about other states or national concerns. But as a state party, we could, if we had the right issue, we could weigh in on and say as a party very hard on that issue.
For
We have
instance,
the
fracking.
power to do that as a state party, because we just speak for ourselves, and maybe forward party of Texas or Washington or Maryland will disagree, but it's how Pennsylvania forward party feels. Yeah, Robert.
Oh, I just wanted to say about fracking, maybe as an example, but yeah, there's
that was the example I was thinking too, but I knew Ben and I
Uh-oh.
probably would disagree about every fracking issue.
It might be a little polar. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty, but there's a good reason why, as Pennsylvania, one of the bigger beneficiaries of fracking,
Yeah,
and all that, why we'd be for it, and
exactly.
maybe using it now while it's more important, whereas in the future it may be less important. And what's the point of having all the natural gas and whatnot? But
Exactly. Ben, I didn't mean to say that we disagree. I'm sure you're expert on the subject. I just yeah. But we should always be on the lookout. If you see something that's Pennsylvania, a good issue like that, an issue that we should take a stand on, we're always free to do that. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, great. Yes. Okay, be a champion, find a champion, support a champion. Who are these champions we're talking about? Talking about local races, namely judge of elections in this case. Ben, would you like to talk about local races and judge of elections?
Sure. This year we're trying to get involved and encourage people to run for a lot of races where they have a very good chance of winning as a forwardist. There are a couple of different options. One of the ones we're pushing for people is called Judge of Elections. This is the front line of defense for democracy. They are the person in charge of the precinct when you go to vote. So, as you can see from some of the points here, we're giving you some information on what you can expect when you try to run for a judge of elections. First thing you need to do if you want to run as a forwardist, you will need to have your registration changed for at least 30 days prior to the primary. It cannot be with any major party. And if you want to run as a forwardist, you cannot be with a minor party at either, because if you want to run for the minor party, you have to be like a libertarian, you have to be part of the Libertarian Party, though I'm not sure if they hit the minor party status. There are three things you need to turn in when you run for any position: candidate affidavit, statement of financial interest, and the nomination papers. The nomination papers are the form where you collect your signatures. You will need to contact your county board of elections to find out exactly how many signatures you would need for your local precinct, because it changes from precinct to precinct for minor parties and third parties. So you will need to find out how many signatures. It would probably be at least 10, but no more than 50 probably. And to actually win the race, you might only need one person to vote for you. A lot of times nobody runs for judge of elections, which is sad because, like I said, it's the first line of defense of our democracy, and it is a very important position. So we want to, any of the races, we also want to use the tools like the Good Party and other resources we have to help you win these elections and provide more voices in elected office. You can go on to the next slide. If you are successful in winning the judge of election race, you will only need to be, it is a very lenient in terms of your time. You only need to be on service for 2 full days, the election day and the primary day, with a couple of hours of training prior to each one. And you get paid for it. And we're not talking jury duty pay. They pay you for a substantial amount of, well, not rich, but you get paid decently. You get to learn about the election process and engage your community and become an ambassador for Ford. So
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. I think we have a judge of elections with us in our midst. Jordan, I don't want to pick on you if you're not willing to talk, but would you like to chime in and share anything?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Jordan Succi, an ally of the Ford Party. I'm an elected judge of elections in Northampton Township in, I guess you would say, South Central Bucks County. It's a long day, 7 a.m. from 8 p.m. The polls are open 13 hours a day, which might sound a long time, but in all honesty, that time's going to fly by if you have a lot of people. When it comes to the pay, what I've experienced is judge of elections normally get paid $200 plus a few extra dollars for gas coverage, because depending on where you are in the county, there are 2 different sections to drop off election materials, Doylestown and I want to say not Middletown, Makefield, Lower Upper Makefield. You get to work with majority and minority inspectors, which are more often than not opposite parties of each other. So if you are a forward judge of elections, you would most likely work with a Democrat or Republican majority or minority inspector, which our inspector of elections is also a tiny election that takes place at the same time as judge of elections, but they are just kind of more of just a regular standard working with the judge to make sure everything runs smoothly. I mean, that's another one I would suggest Forward looks into. But judge of elections can be a bit tough at first, but once you get your mind in order and just focus on just organization and getting through the day and just trying to make sure everything is in progress with the paperwork, it should be a relatively easy thing to do for 13 hours. And then when you're done, you can just sleep in for the next day, because, well, I mean, you're going to need it. I mean, 13 hours, like I said, is a long day, so you need as much sleep as you can.
Great. Great. I have some questions for you, Jordan, but if anybody else has questions for Jordan or Ben about this or other races, please put up your hand. Yeah, Jordan, one thing I'm wondering is, okay, several of us have worked the polls before. How is being judge of elections different than just being a poll worker?
Well, for one, it's an elected position, because same thing with an inspector of elections. But when it comes to machine inspector or book checker, like people who check you through the tablets or the books to make sure like your name's in there and you're fully registered, those are people that have either expressed interest in working the polls or have worked in the polls in the past that want to do it again. If you have worked the polls in the past and you think judge of elections might be up your alley, then I would suggest doing that, because especially if it's your home precinct, like your home polling station that you've worked at for, say, 2 years, 3 years, that's definitely something to know, because you have a general idea of where the polling station is, how to kind of understand how things run in your polling area, and just kind of understand what you have to do. Now, for judge of election election years for judge of elections, of course, if you're a judge of elections, you can't serve as judge of elections, because that would technically be an understanding, because that would be against the law, because that's still running for a position where your name's on the ballot. And if you're serving as judge of elections, then that could be seen as a case of interference. So what normally happens is, if there is a judge of elections who is running for judge of elections again in their home precinct, they would normally be switched with a different polling location, but it's the same thing as I said. Like, nothing really changes except for maybe a bit of the geography inside. But is there missing anything?
Okay. Well, we have a question in the chat. Judge of elections and inspector of election. Do you know, Ben? Is that a question for you, or Jordan? Do you know about the difference between judge of election or running for inspector of election? Are those different?
It's probably referring to the majority inspector and minority inspector. The inspectors are basically people of the major parties making sure that everything is up to snuff. And you want to have people from the parties be fully transparent, so that nobody can say afterwards, we weren't allowed in, so foul. So
right.
This
And don't let the names deceive you. Even though majority and minority, the majority inspector doesn't really do much, but the minority inspector is more often than not the one who has more responsibility. Like, it's a bit of a weird naming conundrum, because minority inspector does a good amount of most of the signing, whereas majority inspector just kind of works the books, making sure people are coming in. So no idea why that name situation's that, but I think that's all technicality that I don't think I want all of our brains to be fried of when I try to explain it.
Yeah, that's probably
okay. How long is the terms?
A judge of elections and inspector of elections term is every 4 years. Every election is the year after the presidential election, so the first off-year election after the presidential election. And of course, each state has their own different primary dates, April, May, June, which everyone in each state can understand. And election day is, well, election day, first Tuesday following the first Monday in November. And for these type of elections, there is some campaigning involved, but where I live in Northampton, there are 18 polling precincts, so it's kind of a small mix of different areas, but you just have to focus on just the one area where you are and just not really focus on anywhere else, because, well, you're just focusing on the precinct you're running for and not the precinct you're not running for.
So, hey, Jordan, can you run for a precinct that you don't live in?
No, you cannot.
Right.
Okay. All right. And yeah, my last question is, how do you know if your local judge of elections race is up for grabs, uncontested, unfilled? How does someone research this?
Well, technically, all precincts are up for grabs this November. And if you wanted to check if somebody is running, you would have to call your county board of election, and in a couple of, actually after March 12th, I believe, that's the day when, or March 11th is the day the major parties have to submit their nomination petitions and get on. That's the nomination petitions is the form that the major parties use to submit their signatures. They only have from February to March 11th to get all their signatures. But third parties have a bit extra time because we have a bit more signatures to collect. But for this one, this position, it's still very manageable. But after March 12th, you would have to call your county board of election to see if anybody submitted paperwork for the major parties for these positions. And they may, and depending on the county, they might have that information on their website. It's county by county though.
There you go. Okay. Okay, so you all have some homework. Look up, find out about your local judge of elections race and find a good candidate to run for it. Eric, standby poll workers may be assigned to polling places other than their own. Right. Yeah, yeah, several of us, I know, I'm sure several people in this call have worked as poll workers. So you're already should be familiar, the judge of elections it doesn't seem is that much different than that. But yeah, poll workers sometimes do work in be somewhere they don't exactly live. Okay, great. All right, campaign tools. We've talked about this before, if you're interested in running for judge of elections or any of the other local races we'd like to be involved in this year. A great resource for third party like us and independent candidates is the Good Party. Good Party's not a party, it's a candidate support website and app. They can help you with canvassing, AI assisted creation. I like to think of it as like Fitbit for running a campaign, right? It keeps you on track, keeps your numbers, it helps you on the path. Yeah, we've talked about that before. Let's open it up to Q&A. Does anyone have any questions? Anything they want to talk about in
Actually,
going
go
on
back
in
to
the world of Forward?
If you could go back to the slide, I also wanted to mention that County First Academy thing. It's a work PDF that has a lot of good information on running for office, whether it's for a major party or a minor party. So, and it's from, I believe it's from Adam Kinzinger's Country First organization. So that's a good resource to read through if you get the chance and want to run for office as well.
Interesting. The Country First Academy, that's a separate site? Sorry, I wasn't familiar with that. That's
Country First is an organization, and they put this out a couple of months ago that helps people run for office.
interesting.
Yeah, it looks very similar to the Good Party. So yeah, you have to just gotta look and compare. Interesting. They look very similar what they offer.
The Country First Academy is basically only one PDF. It is about 20 pages, but it is something you can read through. And
Oh, it's not a website like interactive.
no, so
Okay.
it would be, I think it's under resources.
Okay. Yeah, but again, so this is another example, of the many that are organizations that are trying to get people involved in local politics or take a stand on like working together, but they're not a party. They are not trying to actually run candidates. So if you want to reach out and make contact with these folks or a group like this, then that's something that we can like look for ways to work together. But yeah, everybody, it seems like there's an awful lot of people that want to start an organization to get people, involved in politics in some way, but they don't actually want to go through the trouble to build a party. And maybe we understand some, but it's very important that if we're going to break this two-party system, we actually start a new party. Someone's going to have to do that. Okay. Yeah. Does anyone have any other topics they want to bring up? Any questions or comments about anything we talked about?
Get over here, get over here.
Okay. Everybody's good. Everybody's good.
So if anybody
Um,
doesn't know, it's generally the third Monday of the month, right? Unless there's some crazy, like if it happens to be Christmas Eve or something like that, which is unlikely. So third Monday of the month, right? 8
Have these
o'clock.
calls?
And there are, if depending where you are, there are some local meetups, there are some regional calls if you're in the Southwest or the Southeast. So, this isn't the only thing going on month to month. Really, we're hoping to get more and more work happening and, recruiting and networking and ideas and things like that happening in this downtime. Because elections come up fast and furious, and we always say we didn't have, if we had had more time.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi. My name is Kelly. This is my first time
Oh, welcome.
joining the call. I actually read an article about you all today. And I'm from Philly, lifelong resident, super voter, Democrat all my life. I worked on Harris' campaign. I've worked on multiple campaigns throughout the state. And I'm one of the 92% of Black women who are tired. And I'm looking at, yeah, thank you. And I'm interested in the Forward Party and what you all stand for. And I wanted to know actually when it comes to other races, I know, as you know, with PA being closed primary, do you support or do any work with some of these upcoming? We have some really big elections, municipal elections coming up throughout the state judicial. So speaking of judge of elections, actual, crime and pleas court judges. We have district attorney races in Philadelphia and I think just Philly. We have mayoral races in a lot of rural counties, and also like Allegheny County. Um, we have there's a lot of people that I met on the ground. I did Black engagement for the state in on Harris campaign, and I ran an AG statewide race right before that. So I got a chance to listen and hear and be on the ground and hear a lot of people, voicing their concerns and feeling like nobody was hearing them on both sides. So I do feel like, and of course I have did a lot of research on other third parties, but I do I feel an affinity here, and I do feel like there's some opportunity to mobilize individuals, Pennsylvanians specifically, to exploring these other options. So I wanted to know first and foremost, outside of judging of elections, I know you do work with affiliated candidates. I am such a strong supporter of State Senator Tony Williams as one that I saw on the list. And I wanted to know, are you going to be engaging in any of these upcoming primaries vis-a-vis, affiliated candidates?
We thank you so much for joining and thank you for your question. We would love to, right? We want to run candidates across the board on these local races this year. We're currently looking for candidates. So if you know someone that wants to run and for whatever reason, they would be interested in working with us, we'd love to talk to them. It's so important that, so much of the state is a one party area. The Democrat can't get elected here, Republican can't get elected there. So therefore there's no competition. Did you say you were in Philadelphia?
Yes, I'm currently in Philadelphia, but I've ran multiple statewide races.
Right. But in Philadelphia, no one should be happy that their mayor is decided in the primary election, with a very small portion of the voter base. That should be a competitive race in the general election. Like it's not it's not a right or left thing. It's just the system is not working for people. So yeah, if
Sorry, I agree with you emphatically, and it's like I just want candidates that I am coming across because, like I said, there are a lot of judicial candidates that are running. Like in Philadelphia alone, there are 9 seats open, and I think it's to the tune of about 35 people running out there. Also, Dauphin County, they have some Common Pleas Court seats open, Delaware County, Montgomery County, and a lot of Black women that want to run, but there are Black women, and I'm not saying just Black women, but that's where initially people, because they know the work that I do. But I am just seeing just marginalized candidates that are from marginalized communities not feeling supported in the Democratic Party. And, like I said, lifelong Democrat, I felt it really felt it in this last election. I'm like, no, we should not feel like we only have to go this one way. And it's as if people feel like there are no other options for us. And I'm sick of that. I'm over it. So I'm happy to talk with whomever, like from the group. I have lots of candidates who are good, solid, sound candidates that want to run, and they just need to build that confidence. It is there, and I love your group, and I would love to see how we can mobilize together. I got candidates for y'all.
Oh, great. I forgot to mention, but our first candidate committee meeting of the year will be on the 29th. And when I post the blog post for this meeting, I'll include a link to that. One of the things I would like to mention for people considering running is in many ways, it is easier to get on the ballot with a third party for municipal elections because consider it. For a major party, you have only like less than a month to collect all your signatures and turn everything in. But the day after the major parties are done collecting signatures, March 12th this year, we have from March 12th until August 1st to collect our signatures. So the numbers may be a little bit higher, but it is still a municipal election, so it's not terrible. Now, if you're in a county-wide race, you might have to consider what the numbers are, but it's not impossible. and it's still very doable. And we're collecting signatures in better weather, and we can collect signatures from people from any party, whereas people in the major parties are limited in not only from their circulators, the people collecting signatures, they have to be part of the same party, but we can have anybody, literally anybody.
So what was the state? You said you worked for AG race. I think we did a lot of work with
Yes.
Eric Settle.
With who?
Eric Settle, the also ran for AG.
I my candidate lost in the primary. Keir Bradford Gray, she ran for Attorney General in the primary.
Oh,
Eugene
okay.
Pasquale, yes,
That's
he.
why I think I met her. I think I met her at the there was a Manioc event, and
Oh
she
my
was just
goodness.
finishing up. It was like the wildest thing. She was like, "Oh, can I get your?" I was like, "Yeah, here you go." Like,
That's I was
I'll
probably
take
there
your
too.
pamphlet. And then she was like, I knew exactly what race she was talking about. I think I surprised her, but that's wild. But yeah.
Yes, that
Oh,
I was the deputy campaign manager for her campaign, and that's when, just work being out of the ground, I'm like, oh, there's a disconnect out here between what people are saying, like what people are saying are their concerns, and what, the party was actually like. It just felt like people were being ignored. Women were being ignored.
yeah.
Yeah, so I
Think,
say all that to say I'm really excited
yeah.
about these opportunities.
Oh yeah, with the new Trump presidency, and I think there's certain shifts and balances that must occur, maybe some compromises. I think even Fetterman is talking to Dave McCormick, which is very unusual. So I guess you got to get something done, and a newer freshman senator, and then someone who's been around for 2 years. So I think the more communication, the more understanding, the better. And it'd be great to have you maybe jump in one of these candidate calls and
I
figure
would
something out. Yeah.
I would love that, because I just think there's so many. You all have no idea how many Black women, like hundreds, who feel like they don't know what who they feel like they don't have a voice. Nowhere to go, nowhere to turn. And I just refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe, and I too, grapple with the two-party system, because I'm like, why do I feel like I have to be stuck with one party over the other when there's so many other options? But I've been looking for the viable one. And I remember Yang when I actually liked him, and I felt like we do need some common sense priorities as well. So I have a lot of people, a lot of women, especially Black women, who are feeling very disillusioned right now. And I know I'm being recorded. I don't care, because something has to change. We cannot let, just sit on our knees or stick our head in the sand and hope that, everything will just blow over and we'll be fine. Like, no, we have young Gen Zers and, the Alpha and all are the younger generations coming behind us. We have to set a precedent that is atypical of what we're seeing as the alternative to these extremists.
Yeah, and one thing I also wanted to mention is we are also of the mindset that if somebody aligns with us and are still wanting to be a major party candidate, like Senator Williams, we do affiliation and endorsements as well, but where they can still maintain a major party and get our endorsement. We do vet them and all that jazz, but we want to be a party of civility and getting we want the parties to be the best parties, so we can't shut ourselves out from them as well. We want American politics to be open and fair for everyone.
And I've tried multiple times to get some sort of contact at the Working Families Party, like as long as we're on the topic of other groups that we can work with. And I think there's a lot of overlap where we're fighting the two-party system and could really work together, but I've never really made a contact there. So I know you're in Philly, maybe that they cross your path, but
Yeah,
that's someone else
yes.
to throw out.
So we were, when I was on the AG race, we were endorsed by the Working Families Party. So I want to say her name was Randy. The names right now, forgive me. They were not very supportive though. Like they endorsed on paper, but we did not get like that grassroots boots on the ground, like what I know you all like with the volunteers. If you didn't fit the race that they were very hyper focused on a state rep race. It was for the 10th district, which was Almond Brown against, there was two other, he was being primaried with two other women, and their candidate, her name was Cass Green, and they poured all the money into her race. And I'm like, how do you pour all your money into one hyper local state rep race when you have a statewide candidate running for a row office? It just boggled my mind. But so I kind of always, since then, I'll be honest with you, I've been leery about that group because I don't really know what their focus and their priorities are. I didn't really see it transpire as an endorsed candidate. But yeah, so I do have contacts. Happy to share them with you. I know the state organizer very well. So
yeah, that's something we'd definitely be interested in, I think.
Okay. And it wasn't him, I'll tell you that. Like, these were decisions that were made above him. So they do have good people. So I'm a very fair person. I'm not trying to be on no smear campaign.
Sure.
The Salah Muhammad is their their PA state organizer, and he was very solid and definitely is a good guy.
Okay. All right. Well, it looks like we have lots that we could learn from you and your experience. That's how we feel.
I look like I can learn a lot from you all too, so I'm really happy I decided to join.
Great. And who did you say you knew that invited you to this?
No, I didn't know anyone. I read an article today in Politics PA that talked about your party making some making ground during the 2024 election.
Oh yeah, we had a nice write-up was it the Center Square?
Yes, it was.
Oh yes, Jack made the front page of the newspaper.
That's where I read that article today. And I was
this guy look familiar? He's out there.
Oh yeah. That is the article that I read this morning.
Yeah, that was a nice one.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining. That was a really great article. If anybody has anything else they'd like to bring up, let's do it. Otherwise, let's talk about upcoming events. Ben, the candidate committee, what date did you say?
It will be the 29th, the last Wednesday of the month at 8 p.m. We're going to try to keep on a schedule of monthly, unless as needed, as we get more candidates. That committee, when we have more candidates going through the pipeline, we meet more often.
Okay, so if you'd like to be involved with that, please reach out to Ben or just the normal Pennsylvania@forwardparty.com email. I'll get you connected and we'll post a link for that. I know this Alaskan Forward Party Ranked Choice Voting Day, January 23rd, Thursday night at 9 p.m. You can check that out, talk to some real Alaskans about ranked choice voting. We have the Fair Districts event that we've been publicizing. Is that I lost the date. Is that the 28th?
Pretty sure
Yes.
it's the 28th. Yeah. Southeast
20
Fair Districts. Yeah.
28th. Yeah, that's a press conference. If you're able to attend that in Harrisburg, that would be very good. It's in the invite email that you got for this meeting. Any other events or anything you want to publicize in the next week or two? Anybody? Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Great call tonight. We went a little long. I appreciate you sticking us with. Oh, David, you got something?
Yes, real quick, I just wanted to also extend a welcome to Kelly. I have to be honest, I'm not happy with the national political news of today. I'm not happy with the direction that we are going nationally politically, speaking for myself, not the Forward Party. So on a discouraging day, it's really exciting to have someone like you actually discover us through positive press and reach out and be interested in sharing your expertise and experience. So I just want to tell you how much that means to me on an otherwise discouraging day.
Well, thank you for holding space on this discouraging day, because yeah, it was a very discouraging day. So I decided to just read. That was my thing was I'm just going to read articles today, and I just happened to come across this one, and then I did more research, and I saw that there was a call, and I'm like, oh my God, how kismet is this? So thank you,
Perfect.
thank you all.
Perfect. All right, everyone. Thank you all for joining. And yeah, we'll talk again soon. Have a
All
good
right,
one.
bye everybody.
Bye.
Cheers.